Trump awaiting call from China, but aides say deal not likely before a 104% tariff hits. Guys, one of the things that Gavin and I have been talking about off air is how going and imposing a trade war with the globe is insane, but doubling down and making your number one enemy China in that trade war is even more insane, because they're probably the best country in the world, the most equipped country in the world to beat us at this game, right? They are still on track, or at least they were as far as their most recent numbers were released, to be able to stimulate their economy with cash reserves and still expand and grow year end by 5%, right? That is a monumental feat given the chaos that the global markets are undergoing right now. And we can read a little bit of this to let you guys know that they're going to basically, they're taking this as the opportunity to go to economic war with the United States. Trump started it, and she is not backing down. And I think a lot of the market stability that we saw this morning came because people think Donald Trump is going to back down. I'm skeptical of that. I thought that for sure Donald Trump would take some sort of a rhetorical win at some point, but it seems like because this has become such a high-profile battle between him and Xi, he's going to take it personally, and Donald Trump is not going to want to look weak. He's not going to want to look like the loser. So I imagine he's going to continue to double and triple down. It says U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that he is waiting to hear from China before duties of more than 100% take effect, but other administration officials say they would not prioritize negotiation with the world's number 2 economic power. Global markets steadied after days of carnage prompted by Trump's sweeping levies, which have raised fears of recession and upended a global trading order that has been in place for decades. U.S. stock posted gains after a bruising sell-off that has wiped out trillions of dollars since last week. Trump has already implemented a 10% tariff on almost all imports to the country's largest consumer market, and targeted tariffs up to 50% on many trading partners, due to take effect on Wednesday. So that's tomorrow. And China has refused to bow to what it called blackmail and vowed to fight to the end after Trump threatened to ratchet up tariffs 104% in response to China's decision to match reciprocal duties. Trump announced last week, China always wants to make a deal badly, but they don't know how to get it started. We are waiting for their call. It will happen. So basically, Donald Trump is looking like a fool right now. He's been played for a fool by China. The entire global market backed up Trump, and now she is like, no, dude, I have the fucking cards. I have the ability to say, fuck you. My economy is going to survive this. Yours won't. I'm not going to be kicked out of office. You're going to hopefully be kicked out of office soon in the next election. And I'm going to be able to withstand this trade war. It's going to be devastating for America. And that's going to impact consumer goods. It's going to impact the film industry. It's going to impact us all across the board, guys. Basically, everything that you buy as an individual, it's going to get more expensive. And the whole idea from the Trump administration is that these increased taxes that you're going to be paying, that I'm going to be paying, that Gavin's going to be paying on every single good that we buy, is going to create a pathway for them to get rid of the income tax for the richest people in America.
Yep, I think that's the goal. We'll see if it works out. But yeah, China definitely coming in swinging. They're not going to deal with this shit. They're not going to grovel. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, it seems like we're already basically entering a recession.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, right? I've seen a lot of people on the left talk about how, I don't have any money in the stock market. I'm not paying attention to this. Like, who cares what happens with rich people's money? And I totally understand that impulse, right? A lot of people in America, too many people in America have been excluded from being able to invest in a 401k, to be able to invest in the stock market, period, right? It's become something that only the professional managerial class and the upper crust has been made available to them. But here's why it matters. Even if you have all of your money stashed in cash under a mattress, or if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're like, why the hell do I care what's happening to all these rich people's money? Why do I care if Andrew Yang is having a meltdown on Twitter about all these tariffs? And it's because about 6 to 8 weeks from now, the chickens are going to start to come home to roost for regular people. And then the next 8 months after that probably are going to be a recession, as Gavin talked about, right? And I really appreciate the coverage that they've been doing over at Breaking Points. I thought they put it really well when they compared it to a 2008 style liquidation crisis, which means that all of these companies, right, they're not going to want to sell off any of their stocks because they're going to feel like they're undervalued. What do all of the richest people in America have their money tied up in? Equity in their companies, right? They're shareholders. So when those stocks are plummeting, the people people are going to hold on to them. They're not going to sell them off, which means there's less liquid capital, right? There's less cash to go around. So these people, they'll have enough cash for themselves, but what they're not going to do is they're not going to do a lot of hiring, right? They're not going to increase salaries for anybody. They're not going to increase job openings, because what they're going to do is they're going to sit and wait out the economy until their share prices go up again. And if there is a bailout from the government, which I wouldn't rule out, those people are then going to do stock buybacks, inflate their own stock value, and wait until everything goes back up to start hiring people again. Basically, we're going to flood the market with federal workers. We're going to make the economy crash, and we're going to make it super, super competitive for working people to get jobs, to make the rich a little bit richer, and to make the tariff situation carry a lighter tax load for the richest people among us.
Yeah. Do you want to take a look at what Crystal had to say about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Crystal yesterday did a great monologue talking about how it was fair to call what Donald Trump was doing to the American people class war. This is their follow-up after she announced that they were willing to go to trade war with the United States over this issue.
Let's dig in specifically on China. This is obviously a major part of the dynamic here, major impetus for the launching of this trade war. And Trump issued this on Truth Social yesterday. Let's put it up on the screen. He says, yesterday, China issued retaliatory tariffs of 34% on top of their already record-setting tariffs, non-monetary tariffs, illegal subsidization, I can't say that, of companies, and massive long-term currency manipulation, despite my warning that any country that retaliates against the U.S. by issuing additional tariffs above and beyond their already existing long-term tariff abuse of our nation will be immediately met with new and substantially higher tariffs. Therefore, if China does not withdraw its 34% increase above their already long-term trading abuses by tomorrow, that would be today now, April 8th, the U.S. will impose additional tariffs on China of 50% effective April 9th. That would be tomorrow. Additionally, all talks with China concerning their requested meetings with us will be terminated. Negotiations with other countries, which have also requested meetings, will begin taking place immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, Sagar, assuming that these new tariffs on top of the original tariffs go into place, you're talking about a more than 100% tariff on
104 specifically.
Yes, specifically 104% on China.
Yes, man,
That's insane.
that must be really tough actually for the enforcers, because you can't just double it whenever you come to the price. You actually have to multiply for the 104.
Sure.
All right, let's go through some of the things. And this is, again, we need respect for China. We can be in terms of onshoring and all of this, and we can acknowledge many of the sins of the past about stealing, technology, trade barriers, currency manipulation, all of that.
All of the things that the United States has also done constantly throughout the entire globe
Is old news. Now we are living in 2025 in a world where they have one of the world's best car companies, or a net exporter.
Sire
and
loves
have
those
some of the
Chinese
best
cars. Ever since he saw that video of that one iShow speed dude riding one, he's never been able to let go. He's like, I need one so bad.
That dude has been everywhere, by the way. And to be fair, ever since I've started paying attention to him, it's clear why he's really popular. He is very energetic and very charismatic.
Oh, he's a cool guy. Yeah. And I appreciate the, footage he's been showing off from China specifically, because it is, like so many people have so many ideas about what China's actually like. And it's like, oh, it's actually, just a normal fucking country, basically. We also have lots of, things that other countries would look at and assume are insanely authoritarian, if you described it in a certain way. But yeah, I mean, it seems like everyone there is basically chilling.
Yeah, and that's another good point, is that guy's not an inherently political commentator at all. He's just a regular Twitch streamer and entertainer. Like, he goes around and you live vicariously through his vlogging. And for him to just go there as a regular dude with no mission at all and be like, oh, everybody here is super chill, except for the one lady who called him the N-word on stream. That was a bummer. But just like America, right?
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to go investigate the Uyghur Muslim genocide, or if the CCP told him not to visit that province, but it's still entertaining content.
high tech and low tech in the entire world. So let's go and put this up there on the screen from the Financial Times. I was genuinely amazed reading through all of this. The Chinese know exactly how to destroy us, and they have a whole of government approach. They don't need to, mess with the Federal Reserve. They don't have to deal with Congress. They are basically doing everything we would want to do if we wanted a coherent tariff strategy. So let's start with the first thing. Not only
listen to that. That's from an America First Republican right there, talking about how China is doing everything that we should be doing and how they are uniquely suited to destroy us, right? very rarely in the history of this podcast have I been able to say that I've been on the same page as Sagar, but I've been listening to his coverage over the last couple of days, and he's dead on. If there's one thing that Sagar knows about, it is the stock market and tariffs and things like that, and he knows enough to know that he's not going to stick his neck out for Donald Trump on this one. He wants to be as far away from Trump's policies on this one, and he's actually started to embrace a lot of the things that Crystal Ball has been pointing out, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, it's because he doesn't want to lose a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Did they impose the 34% reciprocal tariff on, 34% in terms of what we put into place. They immediately also held back several things that they could use for maximum pain on the US. So first example is control of rare earth minerals. Some 90% of rare earth minerals, so-called rare earth minerals, as Ryan likes to say, come from China. At the very least, the finished refined products, over 90%. All of them coming to the United States require an export license. Those export licenses, yeah, you can basically say goodbye to that if something like this goes into effect, even with the tariff. They'll simply just not export it. Number two, there was a theory that this would destroy the domestic Chinese economy. Well, unlike this stupid country, what are the Chinese doing? They're saying, okay, well, we can.
They're making shit in their own fucking country. That's what they're doing. And the reason you can't just bring, like, a lot of people, they'll disingenuously be like, oh, I thought the left was against free trade. I thought the left liked tariffs. And it's like, bro, we don't have the infrastructure in this country to make any of these goods. So what is going to happen is we're going to be forced to get them from other countries at a much higher cost, okay? That cost will then be offloaded onto the poor by percentages. Why? Because poor people spend a higher percentage of their income on consumer goods because they don't make as much money.
Yeah, and ironically, it was this country and all of its corporations that decided to do that, however many decades ago, right? With NAFTA and all these trade deals, be like, hey, it would actually be a lot cheaper for us to make all of our shit over in China, over in all these other countries where there's not the same standards of, regulation, right? Or environmental regulation, or, how you can treat people, or what age you can hire people to work at sweatshops and stuff like that. So it's a problem of our own making. But now Trump is going to, punish the people who are not at all at fault. It's not like it's your average consumer who made that decision to ship all the jobs overseas, but it's them who are going to have to pay, in addition to your average, American companies who aren't necessarily exploitative in practice, but obviously, given the state of the economy and the necessity at this point of collaboration with other countries and markets, yeah, they're also going to be punished, despite the fact that that wasn't their fucking fault.
100%.
Control our central bank, and it's all controlled by a single entity, the CCP. We will then move to immediately lower borrowing costs for all domestic business in China. We will basically facilitate a boom in terms of liquid money. Number two, we will pump as much money into the domestic economy as necessary to boost domestic demand and spending, and to make sure that our citizens do not have a decrease in quality of life and the business circle remains square.
This is what a functional fucking society does. It's crazy that this is what China is going to do. And in the United States, it sounds like a fantasy land to do that, to pump liquid capital into the market, to uplift consumers, to uplift the working class and make sure that those people have better domestic opportunities. That is a fantasy in the United States, but it's exactly what we should be doing. And it's what a conservative commentator is telling you as well. It's so obvious that everybody kind of agrees on it, that what Donald Trump is doing is going to be a disaster that's going to tank the economy.
Those are all of the things that they are doing and can do like this.
Yeah.
All of those, we have to rely on some, sage in the Federal Reserve to wake up from his nap 3 months from now. Hope and pray. We also, if we want any stimulus, what do we have to wait for? Mike Johnson. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get on top of that tomorrow.
They're going in the opposite
They're actually going to cut spade. Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's think about who you would rather be. Would you rather be the person who has like full control over your entire economy, has deeply studied its enemy, who has studied now 4 years of stupid sanctions on Russia, which is the greatest training playbook in the history of mankind for the Chinese? Or would you rather be, we just had this, or you're going to hear a segment with Andrew Chen, the country which mindlessly scrolls TikTok and which buys Shein and Temu products and is literally addicted to it. I think.
But the other thing, Sagar, is it's not that. That's not the actual problem with our country. It's that we're a country that is owned completely by corporate interest. It's that we're a country that doesn't have its, issues addressed for the people. It's addressed for lobbyists, and it's addressed for the 1%, right? What China is doing is they're actually thinking about what is going to be the best for the nation. And when you think about what's going to be best for the nation, that includes the citizens and the civilian class, right? That's a big part of your consideration. In America, they get zero consideration. There are two considerations in America. What about the military and what about corporate interests? That's it. There are two talking points: military, corporate interests. Trump is saying corporate interests, we're going to help you out by getting rid of, all kinds of weird avant-garde taxes for you. We're going to make poor people pay more with tariffs.
I don't feel like a lot of corporations are also getting fucked here, though, right? Like they also have to import these products back and forth from 50 different countries to assemble them, and that's going to bring up the costs and lead to. I mean, a recession doesn't necessarily benefit all these companies.
That's true, but if it does benefit the companies, if Trump decides to do a massive bailout at the end of them, which is definitely on the horizon.
Yeah.
think I know which one I'd rather be.
Yeah, which at the center of our social contract is these cheap goods. Like our public has not been primed to be willing to experience any pain around consumer goods. As you know, I mean, we saw in inflation how much that hurt people and how much of a major political issue it became. And Sagar, to add to your list, you know, another thing that the Chinese government has going for it, and I fully understand it's an authoritarian government, it's hard to know exactly what public opinion is, but Harvard did a study of public sentiment vis-a-vis the government, and it's extremely popular. I'm talking like 95% saying I'm either satisfied or highly satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot more unity around their government than obviously here. Trump is very divisive. He is he's quite unpopular. He's, you know, net underwater at this point. You have massive protests that were happening in the streets last weekend. So you have a society that is not at all bought in on this project whatsoever. And, you know, I think that also gives them a tremendous advantage in terms of what they can ask their public to accept. And, you know, we also I think a lot of our mental models are very outdated. I was just thinking about the example of BYD. BYD, this giant Chinese automaker, seller of EVs globally and hybrid models as well.
And I can say, guys, when I was in Manila, there was a car show with all of these EVs from China that were on display. Incredible. And you could buy them for like 20,000 USD. I mean, much cheaper than you could get a Tesla. And I'm talking about the SUV models.
Well, and we don't buy their cars. They don't rely on the US domestic market. And guess what? BYD is growing like gangbusters.
Yeah, it is.
They are now selling more cars than Tesla does. In 2024, they
and
sold...
honestly, that's a great point too, because it is so true that for the most part, these countries are producing things that are better than what we're producing in their own borders. Why would a European country or a Chinese country or an Asian country, whatever, why would they want an American car in their borders? Doesn't make sense. One of the only actual true exports we have of value is the kind of cultural exports, the films, the music, the art. That kind of stuff is still massively relevant all around the world. You go to another country, right? And they are still referencing American media. You will hear American songs on the radio. You'll see trailers for American movies at the cinema, right? Even if you're in a different country. So I think that's a big part of the reason why we see China threatening the film industry and saying hey, we know that your cars they don't have any fucking value over here. Your ships, they don't have any fucking value over here. You don't even have any fucking ships. We create all the fucking ships, right? But it is, some of those more cultural products, which people in other parts of the world do still enjoy and find relevant and want access to. It would probably piss a lot of people off in other countries if they couldn't watch the Minecraft movie or whatever, right? So I think that's interesting too.
Oh yeah, 100%. It kind of reminds me of the Michael Moore movie Capitalism: A Love Story, and he starts talking about how, what changed in America between the 1950s when he was a kid and everything seemed really glamorous, and then the era that brought in Reaganism and the new conservatism and all the mass layoffs and the offshoring of jobs. And he was talking about how America started making cars like shit to enrich the big three and make the corporate overlords more money. And then guess what happened? Japan started making better cars. South Korea started making better cars. There were other nations that we had trade agreements with that were like, oh, I'll make Toyota. I'll make Honda. I'll make cars that aren't going to break down. You ever driven a Ford sedan? Compare that to driving a Toyota Corolla. One's going to break down at like 90,000 miles. The other one is going to break down at like 250,000 miles, right? So naturally, the market is going to sort itself out. We're seeing almost like another wave of that, right? Where it's like, okay, now the United States can't even compete with another power that we used to think of as being totally irrelevant. It's like now you're going to have the Chinese market in here, and our next cultural export, rather, as Gavin pointed out, our last thing that we can't export, we're going to get beat on that too. Why? Because it's been taken over by corporate interests, because it's all about how much money can we make off of one film instead of having a large surplus of films that are all going to be pretty good if you go and see it. They're all going to be pretty entertaining. And you guys might think the film element is a little superfluous, but it impacts all of us because we all watch movies, right? And so it's something that we can all tangibly see. It's something that it's like, oh yeah, well,
and like I said, Hollywood's one of the only fucking crown jewel industries left in this fucking country that every other country doesn't just have their own version of. Like I said, outside of, Bollywood and a few other countries, it's not every country that has a flourishing film industry. A lot of the world does rely on America for those kind of cultural imports.
Yeah, 100%. But anyway, we don't have to spend a ton of time covering the tariff situation because it's all really unfolding and it's all going to really depend on if Donald Trump flinches. But I have been making this comparison over and over on the podcast, and this is kind of what I'm expecting. Donald Trump is trying to play chicken with China when it comes to the trade war, right? He is playing chicken with a train, Cowboy Troy style. All right, everybody, your homework after this podcast, go listen to Chicken with a Train by Cowboy Troy. He walked so Lil Nas X could run. But essentially, if you're playing chicken with a train, there's only one outcome. You either flinch before the train comes or the train's going to run you over, Haas. That's the only way it goes. And I
when you're playing chicken in general, regardless if it's with the train or isn't that just kind of the definition of the game?
Well, the train is not ever going to move, right?
True.
Because it's
on
locked on
rail.
a track.
Yeah, you're right.
So in regular chicken, you have at least the chance
they both
that the
have
other
the option
person
to move.
Yeah,
right.
You only have the option to move. China is the train. They're on a fixed track. They have a planned economy. Xi knows exactly what he's going to do. It's kind of like how playing chess against somebody that knows how to play chess when you don't know how to play chess that well, right? They're thinking 3, 4, 5 moves ahead when they're doing it, and you're only thinking one step at a time, right? So you're always going to lose because you're not planning, you're not strategizing. Donald Trump is the dude that thinks all of the chess pieces move like checkers, okay? And Xi Jinping is a grandmaster. It's not going to work out. Okay. He's not going to come up with the W. He is going to get curb stomped, and with him, so will the rest of the American people.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It sucks too, because I feel like, since this is sort of like squandering an actual potential opportunity that we could have to genuinely restore some manufacturing in America, because that's the thing, like, this is necessary. This project is necessary, even though Trump's going to miserably fail to pull it off. But it would be cool if a president actually tried to restore serious manufacturing within our domestic borders so that we didn't have to rely on China for everything. We found that out during COVID when we ran out of all of our products a week into the fucking, lockdown because, oh shit, everything is made in fucking China. So I do think that it would be cool if there was some sort of initiative to get a real manufacturing base in this country where it wasn't just a bunch of exploited people or undocumented immigrants getting paid $3 an hour, but actual good American jobs. That shouldn't be off the table. That shouldn't be impossible. It shouldn't just be a film industry that America has to be proud of. That's crazy, right? And the film industry is obviously crumbling too. But yeah, it seems like, it's not like I hate the idea here. It's just the way it's getting executed is going to end up making the situation potentially even worse for everybody.
Oh, it's definitely going to make the situation worse for everyone. And I just want to bring up the fact that the last time the economy crashed, right, what did Donald Trump do? Right? He did the single largest upward transfer of wealth of all time. People often pretend that was somehow something that the Democrats did. That was all Donald Trump. Bailing out all of the stock markets, bailing out everyone so they weren't going to have to feel an ounce of pain from the COVID crisis that had been unfolding and unraveling, right? The people got a few checks from Trump, and in return, he bought out the entire fucking industry, the entire stock market, basically. They flooded it with trillions of dollars. It was, again, the single greatest upward transfer of wealth. I don't have the numbers in front of me. They're not fresh in my mind, but it was astronomical, right? And what did all of those major industries do? They turned around and they did stock buybacks to further enrich themselves. They didn't hire new employees. They didn't stimulate the economy. The only stimulating of the economy was the $4,000 or the $3,500 in checks that people got, however much it was, and then telling everybody for months and months and months that nobody wanted to work because of those checks, right? That was what happened. And so what I'm really foreseeing, guys, is that Donald Trump is going to tank the economy, do a massive bailout for the rich, make the rich people even richer than they already were in comparison to the average Joe, vacuum up power, and then kind of move on from there and pretend trade war's over, pretend like declare victory. Do you guys remember when he ran so hard against NAFTA in the primaries of 2016? He railed against NAFTA. He honestly, he tarred and feathered Hillary Clinton during the general election about NAFTA. And then what did Donald Trump do? He did the US, Mexico, Canada agreement, which was basically a new NAFTA, right? It was a new way for workers to get exploited, for companies to offshore their labor, but for Donald Trump to call it a W. So he's not actually interested in addressing any of these root problems at all. He's just interested in making a quick buck for his friends. And I think this is a painful anti-China way that he can message to the American people. And I also think that we have to start really considering his effort to get rid of the income tax. I think that that is something that he is going to start to really think about. The more he talks about William McKinley, the more I start to worry about that.
Yeah, that's going to be so stupid. If that, I mean, there's literally no way the federal government could stay open at all without an income tax. It's just a fantasy.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see if he tries.
And that's what gets stupid people like Jimmy Dore to cheerlead for Elon Musk. I remember Jimmy Dore made a video talking about how if Donald Trump can get rid of the income tax, maybe I wouldn't mind these tariffs so much. And it's like, you fucking moron. Do you not understand that we have to live in a society, that this isn't all about you, that this isn't a fantasy land? But anyway, we're not experts on tariffs. We're just making our way through it all like you guys. But it's something that I've definitely been watching. Also, Bitcoin cratering, which I think is interesting, falling with the economy. So much for that being an independent currency.
Yeah. What a disgrace.
Oh, and Donald Trump just got legislation that would roll back any kind of regulation on Bitcoin. I saw that this morning. Any kind of cryptocurrency regulations been rolled back.
Nice.
So yeah, dude, just all kinds of bad news. But do we want to get into the next topic?
Yeah, might as well. I think that pretty much sums up the precarious state of the global economy. Yeah.
Basically, keep your money in a high interest savings account if you have any money right now. That's probably the smartest thing to do. I would not be running out there and throwing your money in the stock market because it rebounded today and it's definitely going to crater again.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. The Vanguard